Set, go. Now,
Hi, and welcome to week 5 of our virtual lunch and learn with me, Siobhan Lennox, and
Navneet Mann. Hi.
so today we're going to keep this really short and simple because we thought we'd do like a little recap over the last month and also give you a little update about how we're doing and a few tips and tricks that we've been introduced to that are kind of possibly working for us. We're going to see. We're doing it trial by error. So, as I said, this is week 5, and for many of us, it's week 5 of our new working situation, a new living, working, co-space together situation. So it's been an interesting 4 weeks so far. I think everybody's feeling the roller coaster, the emotions that are going on, and although we're all, or at least I'm super grateful for the fact that, I'm able to work from home. I still have a job. I'm still getting paid. Still I'm feeling a lot of emotions right now, and they are coming when I least expect them. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But what have we done for the last 4 weeks, at least during our Monday lunch and learns? So we started off discussing how to thrive in these unusual and unprecedented times. And Navneet gave us some really great tips on this.
Oh, are we doing a review right now of them?
Go for it. Yeah, do like a little mini recap.
Let's do it. Okay, so as many of you may know, I am a lawyer as well as a life coach. I coach lawyers and high achieving professionals that are typically in high stress types of roles. So going from being in a go, go, go type of environment to having everything go on pause and having to work from home in a new environment. Our first session was mostly targeted towards being able to thrive and giving you guys some tools on how to stay productive during these times. So we had talked about creating a routine for yourselves, creating a schedule, making sure that every day you're kind of following a structured day to kind of mimic your work day. So you're not just taking it as working from home and doing whatever all day and fitting in work into your life. You're kind of prioritizing the day and the schedule, scheduling breaks for yourself, having lunch, sometimes with us on Mondays, and getting up and stretching, moving your body, and just kind of taking care of yourself. So we also talked about like the importance of taking this time to reassess what's important to you and figuring out what you may want at the end of all of this. And if that means just taking the time to cope and really giving yourself the space to deal with everything going on, that's fine. If it means that you want to reassess where your career is at and maybe make some pivots in the future or look at different options, and this is also a good opportunity for you to do that. So we had talked about what that might look like, what life could look like post-pandemic for you, for your career, but also personally. So those are some of the things that we had covered in the first episode.
And then we went on to talk about resiliency, because, part of being in this unusual time is how we adapt, how we strive to move forward with every day and then also into the future as well. And so Navneet gave some really great tips again on resiliency and how we're all resilient and we show that resiliency every single day, but we might not realize that that's resiliency because we've never identified what it is. And so we talked through some different techniques of identifying how we're resilient and when we're resilient, and then how to use that skill in different situations.
Yeah, so we talked about the fact that everybody is resilient. I mean, any hardship that you've ever gone through in your life and you've lived to talk about it has helped create your resilience. It's helped improve and strengthen your resilience. So this is just another hardship that we're all going through. It is a time that it's interesting that the whole world is going through an adversity at the same time. This very, very, very rarely happens. But being able to use this as your fuel to build more resilience, to come out stronger on the other side, So we had talked about a few tips and tactics that you can use in order to build your own resilience. Some of those being changing your perspective, being able to understand that you have survived everything that's happened in your life thus far, and you might be able to look at each situation as thinking, am I catastrophizing this? Am I overthinking this? Am I making it worse than it really is? And just being able to step into that mindset of knowing how strong you are and how tough you are, and the fact that you can bounce back and get through these things. We had also talked about choosing what you're going to focus on. So when we're going through hard times, it's easy to see every evidence of that hard time. It's easy to focus on the things that are creating more negative emotions, and our body goes into this like fight, flight, or freeze response. And we had talked a little bit about this. You want to be able to, totally run away from it, or you want to combat what's going on, or you just freeze completely and don't move forward at all. So the importance of being able to step out of that survival instinct more into a growth type of mindset. So focus on some of the positive stuff. We had talked about practicing gratitude, which I'm a big advocate for, even though, like I said, it sounds really fluffy. And if you told me a few years ago that I would be this person meditating every day and practicing gratitude, I would think you're nuts. But it's something that is really important because it really does rewire your mind in order to focus on the positive. So we talked about that. We talked about questioning whether your thoughts are helping or hindering you. Is this going to bring me closer to where I want to be, or is it going to push me further? So those are, some of the tips that we talked about during building resilience.
Absolutely. And then the following week, we had a very special guest. Reza V joined us, the founder of OVU, and he shared with us some of the things that he'd learned about effectively building relationships through networking, and how he'd used his in-person experience of networking and relationship building and now was transferring it to more of a digital online experience. And he gave us some really great tips, like actual actionable tips that we could put into practice immediately, and see genuine results, hopefully. So that was really good. We had some great questions that came up from it as well. So yeah, if you're interested, you just use the hashtag 100 events in 100 days, and you'll find Reza's journey. He's now doing 100 podcasts in 100 weeks. He's now got a bit of a theme going with 100,
Yeah.
which is great. Everyone has to have a theme, and this is Reza's theme. And yeah, there were some really useful things about building a genuine connection with somebody, which we found really useful.
Yeah, I thought it was really great because it was very tangible on how to bring your networking from being in person and building that rapport and those connections with people face to face to taking it online. And he had some really, really useful tips on how to do that. He's an expert networker and connects very well with people. And one of the things that really stood out that he mentioned, and we talked about quite a bit, was building value for the other person and, being value centric. So not just wanting to identify what you're going to get out of that relationship, but what you can also give and how to properly network with people. And Siobhan, you had mentioned the importance of, if you're connecting with somebody online, make sure you take a little bit of time to do a little bit of research on what that person does and write a thoughtful message to them before you hit connect on LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever it is. And I thought that was just such a valuable point, because you and I both get so many connections per week, per day, that are just completely blank, and we don't even know why this person would want to connect with us or what value we can bring to them. So really, really important tip there is to be able to understand who you're connecting with, and just know that making connections and networking online is just as important and just as valuable to you to do as it would be to do in person, if not more, because you can connect with even more people online than you could in person in your local jurisdiction. So that was a great session, and I'd highly recommend going back to that. Lots of good tips in there.
Absolutely. And then last week we diverged a little bit in that we did a Q&A session specifically aimed at internationally trained lawyers who are going through the NCA process, which, for those of you who aren't aware of the NCA process, is the requalification process in Canada, so that you can practice law in Canada when you move from elsewhere. And it is jurisdiction based, as in province based. And so that was a really great interactive session. We had a lot of attendees join us in person. We got some questions in advance. We had some questions during the session. We covered a lot of ground. Some of it related back to the previous session on Reza. So yeah, if you know, questions around networking, relationship building, you know, trying to meet people for the first time, to find a job at any stage in your career, definitely go back and watch Reza's the interview with Reza, because we referenced that a lot because the tips were so valuable. We also talked about ways of gaining Canadian legal experience, what that meant for people. I've had some follow-up questions around that as well. People asking what the difference between work experience, work shadow, and internships are. Apparently in different parts of the world, they mean different things. So at some point I will do a post on LinkedIn about that for people and explain the differences of what they all mean. But that was a really, I think, a valuable session for those people specifically, but there were some tangible points, I think, that related to people not going through the NCA process as well.
Yes. Yeah, I definitely agree. And in the future, we will be holding more of those Q&A sessions just to make sure that we're addressing all the questions that you guys might have. And that one happened to be more geared towards the internationally trained lawyers that are going through some, I guess, challenges on being able to find the right positions for themselves, or they're trying to set themselves up for articling positions. However, that's not always going to be the focus of our questions and our Q&A sessions. We are here to give you more of a broad scope on working online and being able to succeed through these times. And I mean, even beyond this hardship, we're here as a support system, but also as somebody to help guide you guys through whatever hardships you're facing in your careers, especially as they relate to your everyday life, which kind of takes me into what we're going to talk about today, which Siobhan mentioned. We're already into week 5. Siobhan's starting her 6th week working at home. I'll be starting my 6th week later on this week, just because I started work from home midweek. But we have been discussing how every single week is kind of melting into the previous week and the next week, and it's all just feeling blended. And it's harder and harder to keep track of the weeks, the days of the weeks, the weekends from the weekdays, and all of that. And we wanted to talk about our experiences with that and give you guys some of our tips of what we've been doing in order to help manage that and make sure we're giving ourselves that distinction of the workday and then being able to turn it off, and why that is so important for your own well-being and to ensure that you don't actually hit a wall or burn out.
Absolutely. Yeah. Someone said to me the other day, what day of the week is it? And I was like, Thursday. You know, like, I don't know, like I've completely lost track. But I know I was talking about this with my husband at the weekend, and we were like, okay, we need to have some distinction between the days of the week where we work and the days of the week where we don't work. So one of the simple things we've been doing is we kind of have date night on Friday. And how that separates from the rest of the week is we cook dinner together on date night rather than us taking it turns, Monday to Thursday. We also sit down and eat, and we make sure that our phones are completely away from us so we don't look at our phones whilst we're eating. And then we've also, at the weekends, we've tried to not use the computer as much, like, you know, and not use our phones as much, which is hard because our family, you know, they don't live locally to us, they live all over the world. And so obviously, you know, we're using our devices to communicate with them, but we're restricting our use of those devices purely to communicate with friends and family, rather than the more mundane activities that we do during the working week. Just so that in our own space, which is 600 square feet, we have that separation physically and emotionally from it, because we can't close the door on our office anymore. We can't, you know, we don't jump on the SkyTrain or the bus to go home and separate work from home, because my husband works in our kitchen, like standing up at our kitchen counter. Like every time we walk into the kitchen, there is his office space on top of a bunch of cardboard boxes. So it's very hard for us to just put it to one side and forget about it when you're physically seeing it every single day. So instead we're having to make a mental shift, which I'm sure is the same for many people out there. It's like,
Yeah.
you live in a small space with other people. It's very hard to create that separation of work and home life right now when everything is in one space.
Yep. And I'm the same way. I work in a very small space. There's two of us as well working in the same small space, and we don't have a door to close either. A lot of times people find that looking at their work, and it can be triggering because it's just you're anticipating all the stuff you still need to do. So when Friday rolls around, although you want to turn it off, you might not always be able to because you're feeling this angst and overwhelm. For that, I would definitely recommend going back to actually, we didn't cover overwhelm fully, but I did do a podcast episode on overwhelm that we can cover in a second. But I love what Siobhan just mentioned about Fridays being their date night. It's when you can create a hard stop to the work week, and if that's creating a date night, making dinner, whatever ritual that you can create around that, saying that every week this is what I do on Friday, and that's the stop of my work week. It's very, very important. The thing is, work is always going to be there. And I know, especially in law, we have a lot of obligations, we have deadlines, we have a lot of pressures, but you need to be able to know, as long as you have managed your time properly, you don't need to work into every single evening or every single weekend. Being able to make a schedule or a list of tasks to do that is actually feasible is really important, but you have to be able to put it away, because when you are bleeding into your evening and then your weekend, everything is a blur, and that is a recipe for disaster. That's how you burn out, because you don't get any relief from the work, and that pressure keeps building and building and building. No matter how much you love your job, it is still a job and it is still work. So it does have a mental element that does create more pressure in your mind. So do something that matters to you. Do something that feels like a treat on a Friday or on the weekend, something to look forward to. So that is kind of something be over and beyond your work day. So yes, put away your work stuff, close your laptop. A lot of people say clean your workspace so it's like fresh for Monday. So I like to try to organize what I can on a Friday, and then I don't sit back in that chair. I try not to work and sit down there. So even if I need my laptop, I might bring it somewhere else, because I typically don't work on the couch during the work week. So I'll bring it here, during the weekend or something like that. So it feels different. It's still that distinction of the space. So it's really, really important to be able to make like those chunks of time and treat the weekend like the weekend. Even if there's work is on your mind, just know that, it's going to be there on Monday. And hopefully if you're in a position to be able to do it on Monday, then do it on Monday, as long as you're not missing a deadline or something like that, of course. But it's mostly the pressure that's created is self-inflicted. So do think about that and be real with yourself. Is this something I need to worry about right now in this moment, or will it still be there for me to pick up when the work week starts again?
Absolutely. And, it's totally normal for the days to blur right now. Like, you're not on our own. Like, you're not on your own. We're not on our own. We're all going through this together.
Yeah.
And there's no right or wrong way to feel, but know that feeling all those different feelings is okay. Totally. But it's how do we find a way, which is different for every single person, but how do we find a way to navigate all those different feelings and try and find some kind of balance that works for us individually. And there's loads of resources out there. Like, people are talking about this all the time on social media, on the internet. So you can find resources. One thing that I've personally been enjoying is that I've made a commitment to do 2 Pilates classes a week online with my Pilates studio that I used to go to, which, when I was back in the day and could go outside freely and move around, I was lucky if I made 1 class a week in person. Well, now I'm making the commitment to make 2 classes a week from home. Yeah. So for me, that's something that I'm doing because it works for me. It grounds me. It gets me physically moving, so that, I'm not hunched over my desk, sitting in a poor posture all day because I'm not in my nice ergonomically assessed situation at work. But it's got to be something that works for you. And whether that's just like cooking dinner, or doing the weekly grocery shop, which personally I hate and can't stand, and I actually went for the first time in a month this weekend. So proud of myself. You know, whatever it is, whether it's going for a walk around your block, find something that works for you, that helps you find some sense of balance.
Yep.
And, you know, that could just be having a shower every day. You know, wash.
We
you know,
can still do that.
yeah,
Okay.
you know, washing our hair once a week. You know, that can be whatever works. And as I say, it's different for every single person, but try and find some form of balance that helps you work through all of the different emotions that you're going to be feeling.
Totally.
Or potentially feeling.
I go for a walk. I definitely need to go out and get fresh air. So, you know, that's how I know that my day is kind of over. I used to actually, when I was working back in the day in an office, I used to go for my lunchtime walks, and that kind of broke up my day. Now I do it at the end of my work day, and I go for a walk, and I know like that's my time, and I can process whatever's going on in my mind, whatever I'm feeling. But then when I come back, the work is done. Like I'm not going back to, you know, doing my work on that in that evening. Another thing that helps is kind of creating maybe days of the week. Like Wednesdays I do this. Like, so if it's, you know, doing your online Pilates class or whatever it is, but creating a little bit of structure to your week sometimes helps break it up and helps you see that every single day is not blurred. You have something to look forward to. Like Mondays, I'm sure everyone is looking forward to our lunch sessions, but there could be other things during the week as well. So
Absolutely.
yeah, really, really important. Otherwise everything just turns into a big mush. And if that's how you've been feeling, we've been feeling it too. So it's okay. It's not the end of the world, but if you want to be able to break it up, it's really nice to have certain routines. You know, like when everyone starts cheering outside, I'm like, oh, it must be 7 o'clock. Like that identifies something for me, because 7 o'clock, everyone, if you're not familiar, cheers for the healthcare workers, and they go out on their balconies and they bang pots and pans, and it's great. It's like, for me, it warms me up. I love standing outside and joining in. But as long as you have something during the day and during your week that breaks things up for you, you'll be able to kind of keep your sanity and know that there are distinctive days and times of the week.
Absolutely. I kind of wish I almost had cable TV now and had regular TV shows on regular days to watch, because at least then I would know what day of the week it is. But, you know, I don't have cable TV anymore, so that's gone.
Yeah. Now you just
we'll create our own routine.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah,
right.
That's some of the stuff that we have noticed and some of the stuff we've been going through. We just wanted to jump on here real quick, do an overview and share some of this with you. As always, we're still here and we're available to you all. We will be posting on our LinkedIn pages and Facebook about the sessions that are to come. And we're posting last week's session. It's already on YouTube, but we will be posting it on our LinkedIn pages as well. Siobhan, do you want to tell everyone where they can find our sessions?
Yeah, so if you go to, if you go onto YouTube and you go to Global Lawyers of Canada, GLC, you will find our YouTube channel and you'll find all of our past sessions on there. They all call GLC Virtual Lunch. And yeah, you'll find us there. Our contact details are all in the links to those videos, so make sure you click on more and you'll find us, and you can then find us on LinkedIn and connect with us.
Yeah, it would be great to connect with you all. And if you ever have any questions, please forward them on to us. We would love to address them in future sessions.
Absolutely. We look forward to seeing you next Monday for our virtual lunch break.
Have a great week, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.